Christ is king, it's where we belong. Stay with the dream, don't lose your way. Right way's the fire that'll light the day. Keep it simple, let the moment arrive. 3-8 trap keeps the hope alive. Hold on tight till the signal's near. Right way's the trail, we're breaking through fear.
Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for October 6th, 2025. Well, I hope everyone had a great weekend, ready for another busy week as we continue to stretch up with our government shutdown and lots of things happening around the world. How about we just jump right in and take a look at what happened over this weekend? Well, first off, you probably want to make a note that Japan hits a new record high. They elected a staunchly conservative woman, and she may become the first female prime minister in Japan. And as a result, the market loved it. The market jumped up 4.75% in the Nikkei, 2,175 points, zooming to the upside on the election of this new person. So quite the performance there. Obviously, there was some pent-up energy in that market. If we take a look at other Asian markets, Australia was down 6 points, or 0.07%. Hong Kong fell by 183.15 points, or 67.67% lower. If we take a look at South Korea was up $93.38, or 2.70% higher. India up 183.40, or 0.74% higher. And Shanghai moved up 20.24, or 0.52% higher on all of this news yesterday. Let's take a look at what's going on in European markets this morning. European markets are a little bit mixed. We have a situation there in France. The France Prime Minister resigning after just 27 days, raising more uncertainty in that government. If we take a look, though, we've got the DAX up by $9.03 this morning. FTSE right now is down $8.15, which, by the way, is 0.09%. The DAX being up $9 at 0.03%, and the CAC falling sharply, down 118.97, or 1.47% lower here this morning, as they try to figure out what they're going to do with their government situation over there. If we take a look at U.S. markets, well, we're all bull all the time. We've got the Dow futures trying to pop to the upside here this morning. Right now up 78 points here this morning, continuing to push higher. If we look at the S&P 500 futures, up 26 points here at the moment, and NASDAQ futures are zooming up 150 points here at the open. So continuing to stretch these valuations, and it's really remarkable right now because it just seems like no valuation and no prices are too high when it comes to tech as they continue to push. But trust me on this, there are some cracks showing in the system that we'll want to be paying pretty close attention to. So what does all that mean for the day? Well, let's take a look at a few more areas of the market here before we completely make a decision about what we're going to do here. First off, we take a look at the bonds. Bonds are moving higher here this morning. Our 2-year bonds pushing up to 3.58%. 10-year bonds have jumped up to 4.16%. And those 30-year bonds really moving higher, up 4.76% here this morning. So showing some strength in those bonds. As a result, this morning, we've got our U.S. dollar sharply higher. Take a look at that, really pushing up here. So holding in on that little upside trend. Now let's see if we can break through some of this resistance up here in the chart. Watch that carefully. Dollar right now is up 71 cents in the dollar futures here this morning. If we take a look at what's happening here on precious metals as a result, well, we are showing lots of bullishness here. Gold really stretching up here. Right now up $59.50 an ounce. $3,968 an ounce on gold. We've got silver this morning moving higher as well. Up, let's see, silver futures up 48.5 an ounce at 48.45 an ounce, continuing to stretch higher there. We've got copper just a little bit soft here this morning. COPX is the miners still holding in there pretty strongly though, but copper itself is down about 6 cents here this morning, while platinum is moving higher by $4.50 an ounce in the futures, and palladium is up $5.50 an ounce in futures here this morning. If we take a look at crypto markets, well, crypto markets continuing to zoom green across the board. IBIT continuing to stretch up in this vertical run, up 1,392.77 a coin here this morning, or 1.13%. Ether is up 67.35 a coin, 1.50% higher as it pushes up here to test some recent highs. A recent high resistance, I should say, in ETHA. And Solana is up $5.21 or 2.29% here this morning. We're green across the board in those cryptos. Might have heard also that OPEC did increase their production, but it was a rather modest increase, like 160,000 barrels a day or something. Rather modest increase, and so that is helping oil here this morning. That I think the market was expecting a much bigger increase. Right now we have oil up $1.02 a barrel, bouncing off of those lows at $61.90 a barrel. Brent crude right now is up $1.07 or $65.60 a barrel. And if we take a look at natural gas here this morning, that's also moving back up at 12 cents or 3.70% higher this morning. A nice little gap up here as we move through into the morning. So now that we've gone through all of those details, what does that mean for the day? How about we settle in, let's buckle up, let's get ready for the Monday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at these index charts. Let's try to shake off that bias. Let's try to focus in on these charts and really figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. And when we look at the diamonds, there isn't any way to look at that with a bearish high at the moment. We did pull back pretty sharply. We got a little bit carried away there on Friday in that pump to the upside, and then the selling came in. The question is, can we follow through to the upside? And right now we're trying to gap up and do that at the moment. So if those bulls can continue to find inspiration here, well, just know the blue sky above is all we have up here. Obviously, we have a high print from Friday in here that we could take a look at as possibly a target, but just watch that closely as we continue to make new record highs on a closing basis here in the Dow. If the bears were to have anything to say here, well, first thing we would need to do is retrace this candle. And if we did retrace that candle, no major harm in the market if that were to occur, because you can see that we're still holding above support in that upside trend. I think it would be, if we were to, and particularly if we got a full reversal on this in a day, reverse back down and break below that area, that would raise some concern here in the market. But we've got good support on down in here, so we could pull back and rest a little bit, and it really wouldn't hurt us here in the Dow. It would be probably if we took out this low that markets would start to get really concerned. But right now, nothing showing there that suggests bearishness. If we take a look at our SPY, SPY, little bit of a concern on Friday because we had a kind of a shooting star pattern in here. But as you can see, gapping on through here this morning with a big tech push, trying to continue on higher. So remember, a shooting star requires a follow-through of some kind. So we had a hanging man, a shooting star, and now we're just gapping up and running on Monday morning. So watch that carefully. If the bulls can continue to push that up, well, there's our high target up here, and then blue sky above here, possible new record high at the close today if we can hold up here, right in here, and this is a new record high open here on the day. If the bears were to have anything to say, first thing, pushing back down, testing that area of support, and then pushing down in here, we would challenge this little upside trend a little bit, but notice we have a good support right in here as well on price action. So I think it would have to be a full-on reversal that would break that low, that would raise some concern in the market. And I do think there is reason to think that that's possible, and I'll show you why here in a bit. But looking at this chart, just keeping in mind we've got some good support down in here, and again, I don't think this raises any major concerns here unless we were to create some kind of a lower high in the chart or take out this low here in the chart. So long ways for that to go, and this is just a very bullish chart. If you take a look at QQQ, also a very bullish chart. We did pull back there on Friday, showing a little bit of weariness or a little bit of concern, but boy, we're completely reversing that here at the open. At least it looks like we will in the pre-market as we push back up and try to break through that resistance here in the chart. So pop up through there, we've got a new record high potential here in the QQQ and blue sky above that area. If the bears were to push back, of course, we would be watching this area pretty closely. And QQQ seems to be the one probably at the most risk at the moment of a pullback, because we're stretching these prices so much. But watch that carefully. We would have to break down below that area, I think, to create any little concern in the market. And then I think we're going to have to take out this area here to really raise some concern in the market. And once again, I don't think we have any kind of a major problem unless we created a lower high in here somehow or moved straight on down and took out that low. So nothing in here that suggests any bearishness at the moment. And IWM, same thing. We put in a bit of a shooting star pattern. We're trying to reverse that here this morning. Breaking higher here, you can see in IWM. Blue sky above here in the Russell, continuing to push up here. So watch that carefully to the upside. Every reason to believe we could challenge that high of that wick and continue to stretch on through to the upside. If the bears have anything to say, remember a shooting star requires follow through like this one here, but we just have no willingness to sell anything here in the market. It's just all buy all the time. So watch that carefully. If the bears were to push back, then watch that carefully in here. Breaking down below there, we've got a gap that could be filled. So we could fill that gap and then test this area of price support, and then breaking that trend down would probably raise some concern. But again, all bulls all the time here in the market at the moment. However, if we take a look at our VIX, there is a bit of a concern here because our VIX has been continuing to move up, making a little bit higher highs, continuing to move up as we have been celebrating to the upside in a really big way. Our market breadth has also been really weak. We've got the Buffett indicator at new records here, pushing up well above where it was even in the 1999 tech bubble. but just continuing to force prices higher and higher and higher. So watch this carefully. We need to see this break back down. We need to see those bulls say, no, there really isn't any fear here if we're going to continue to run higher. We need to break that back down. If we continue to see this rally up as we stretch to the upside, just be really careful for the potential whipsaw or that big nasty reversal day that can come when we do this kind of thing. And it usually happens suddenly, and it usually happens in a pretty fast way. At least in my past history of market tops, when it comes quickly. So be careful chasing stocks that are already extended to the upside, but stay with the upside trend. Look for stocks that are just coming up out of bottoms, or look for stocks that have really low risk entry patterns to find those long trades. But just be careful chasing those already extended stocks to the upside in case that reversal comes. If we take a look at our T2122, our T2122 indicator this morning with this big push up, will probably be back up here in the bearish reversal zone as we were at the top of the market on Friday. We were up here in that reversal zone. So we're in that situation where we're reaching kind of those extreme levels here on a short-term basis. And again, that's where we want to watch for those potential whipsaws or even that reversal that comes in on the day. If the bulls can continue to find that inspiration, well, there's your upside opportunity. If the bears find inspiration, we're going to have a big downside opportunity. And if we gap up here this morning, well, then it's all downside opportunity for those bears if they have anything that they can grab onto. So keep an eye on that. If we take a look at our T2108, percentage of stocks above the 40-day moving average did move back up on Friday on that big push. We might be able to push through that 50% area here in the chart on the gap up here this morning. So watch that carefully. That would be a good sign showing those starting to come back around a little bit. We might push up toward that 55% where we still have quite a bit of congestion and resistance in that area. So watch that area of the chart as well. If the bears were to have anything to say and reverse this, taking out this area and breaking back down would probably raise some concern. Our T2107, percentage of stocks above the 200, they have been very resilient, holding up in here, and you can see pushing higher here on Friday, holding well above 50%. I would suggest that this morning we have an opportunity to retest this 55% area here. We only breached through that one time here recently, but we might do that again today, breach right through there, and then we'll start pushing up into this recent high on T2107. Here's our problem, our T2101. As we went higher on Friday and set new records and just continue to push to the upside, as you can see, our breadth remains extremely weak. Remember, we are still in the corporate buyback blackout period as we wait for the next round of earnings, which won't begin until the 14th. So kind of keep in mind, it's pretty typical that we can have kind of stale markets or even a consolidating period of time here. So it's odd that we're stretching up on such weak breadth. That creates that situation of big whipsaws, full-on reversal potentials. So once again, be very, very careful showing this kind of weakness as we're making new record highs in the markets. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. In our economic calendar, we've got a few things to be paying attention to this week, but almost nothing today. We've got a Treasury buyback announcement, a couple of little bond auctions, a 3-month and a 6-month bond auction in here to be paying attention to. If we look into Tuesday, we got international trading goods that will be out. We've got several Fed speakers in here that you can see, some more bond auctions, a consumer credit report. On Wednesday, our normal situation here, we get mortgage applications. We're going to get petroleum status numbers. We're going to get some more bond auctions. FOMC minutes should be out. That's assuming it's not delayed because of the government shutdown. And just remember, some of these numbers may or may not happen because of the government shutdown. There's supposed to be another vote today. The Senate has voted it down 4 times straight. We'll see if the negotiations over the weekend or if the pressure over the weekend starting to build to move a few folks off top dead center and get this extension passed and the government reopened. If it doesn't, I think there's probably some layoffs on the way, according to what the president is saying. If we take a look into Thursday, well, the big guy is going to be talking here on Thursday. Jerome Powell, first thing in the morning, we've got jobless claims in here. Bauman's also speaking. We've got wholesale inventories, natural gas report. We've got some bond auctions here, 30-year bond auction, and more Fed speak here as we move through the week. And then Goolsbee will start off Friday with a consumer sentiment report, and Baker Hughes, more Fed speak as we round out the week. Let's take a look at our at earnings calendar here for today. We don't have a whole lot going on here on earnings. And as a matter of fact, there really is only one notable for today. But we've got VCIG that will be reporting here this morning, which nobody's going to care much about, little tiny stock there. And then we've got Constellation Brands is our most notable for the day. STZ will be reporting after the bell, and AEHR trades very, very low volume as a general rule, but because it's a semiconductor, it's something you have to pay attention to because this has been running just like everything else in tech here. So watch that closely on that guy. That'll be this afternoon, and that is the end of our earnings for today. So very, very light, as we would expect at this time of year. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if you could click that subscribe button on YouTube if this is the first time you've seen these videos, and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful to your day, if you could do me that favor, if you could click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment, that helps the channel to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does that. And once again, I am always humbled every day by the kindness that you all show me. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And again, I never would have expected 32,000 people would subscribe for something that doesn't provide a whole bunch of hyper prediction in the market. So thank you very much. Let's take a look at some of these stocks that could be setting up. And remember, everyone, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence and be very, very careful in this market. Remembering that anything is possible. And when we've got this situation of extremely low breadth, we have to be very thoughtful about the trades we take, just in case that whipsaw or reversal comes along. But that being said, there's some really good stocks out there to be paying attention to. First off, let's take a look at Nike. Now, Nike been getting some attention here, and after breaking this downtrend to the upside, this is the pattern that I'm always looking for in the chart. When we break a downtrend, we pop up, and now we pull back. So I don't know where we're going to find those buyers in here yet. If we're going to be able to find them right in this area, a little bit of support right in there, this holds, and then we start to see Nike start moving back on higher. Watch that carefully in here, but I think it should be something on your list as an opportunity, and certainly the analysts are starting to pick up on this one, and so worth keeping an eye on. Let's take a look at Schlumberger. Schlumberger has been moving in this downside trend here, but you can see right here an ever so slightly higher low. Nice hammering pattern pushing up in here. So we've got this wedging pattern in here with the bullishness that we're seeing in oil this morning. Might be worth paying attention to a couple of these, see if they could move on through to the upside. I think it's worth keeping an eye on anyway. Take a look at Cisco. Now, Cisco broke through that downtrend here in the chart. There's that wedging pattern here again with that higher low. And then we pushed on through, resting back to hold this area price support in the chart. Be worth keeping an eye on this. If Cisco pops in here at any place, I think we could stretch on up and at least retest this resistance, if not popping on through to the upside here with the enthusiasm in the market. I think you should be keeping an eye here on General Motors. General Motors has been running nicely, had a pretty strong pullback in here, but if we hold in this area of support right in here, we see those buyers picking up here on Friday, bouncing back up off of that area, then I think there is that opportunity that could maybe stretch on higher. Keep an eye on General Motors. Tesla had a couple of bad days in here, Thursday and Friday, but notice the bounce in here on Friday. I think it's worth paying attention to this as well. If you like these big techs, and they're kind of expensive and it's not for everyone, I understand, but watch that carefully in here for that opportunity that could push on higher. You know, talking about a little bit of cheaper stocks, take a look at UROY here. UROY is a uranium play, nice little resting consolidation. It's not too expensive. Anybody can probably get involved in that. As that continues to rest out here toward the trend, remember, we're going to need pretty much all the energy we can muster to supply AI. And there's still a question whether we're going to get it done in time, but watch that carefully in here on that. May have that opportunity to push on higher. You might want to take a look at Plug Power. Now, Plug is a fuel cell technology company, and you can see really shot up here recently, stretching through to the upside. Any rest or pullback, don't chase this. Any rest or pullback that holds support comes back in here to trend. I would look for that next opportunity in Plug Power. And you could also look at one that's even a little bit cheaper, Ballard Power. Ballard Power is another fuel cell technology, really stretching here to the upside, trying to break through some big resistance in here in the chart. So any rest or pullback could set up an opportunity there in Ballard. If we take a look at our utilities have been incredibly strong. XLU breaking through. Let me pull this back and show you. Utilities at all-time highs here, and I think we've got some big upside potential in these still, as we're gonna just think about all the power that these companies are going to have to be transmitting to all of these data centers that are being built. So watch that carefully in here. Any rest or pullback would set up an opportunity. You could take a look at some individual stocks in here like NEE that broke through this resistance last week, out of this bottoming basing pattern in here. Little rest or pullback would set up an opportunity there. Southern Company is really set up nicely here for today. Nice little bullish candle here on Friday. All we need is that continued push in here. I think Southern Company could move on through to the upside, so keep an eye on some of those. You know, something we're going to have to be paying pretty close attention to here, those financials. There was quite a little bit of volatility that showed up in let's get XLF here. Quite a little bit of volatility that showed up in there last week as those bonds moving around like they were. We're trying to test that downtrend here on XLF, but watch that carefully. We can get a little bullish activity in here. We might pop that right on through here in that chart. I think it's worth paying attention to. I wouldn't be doing a whole lot of rushing in, but there are stocks out there, you know, trying to come back after that big sell-off there, like Schwab, worth paying attention to. We're going to have to continue to pay attention to these semiconductor stocks. AMBA really nice little consolidating move in here. I would watch that closely with the bullishness this morning. We might just catch a little bit of love here and push that right on through pretty soon, so watch that carefully there. Also be keeping an eye on some of the drug makers. They have had a whopper of a run here. Any rest or pullback sets up opportunities there. There are plenty of those to be paying attention to. Merck coming up out of this bottom in a huge way, breaking through this basing pattern. Little resting pullback could set up an opportunity there worth paying attention to. And I'm going to have to continue to mention things here in the aerospace and defense, because just really looking strong here on General Dynamics as they continue to push up. You can take a look at LMT continuing to stretch as defense spending has really been zooming here. Watch that carefully. This is a big basing pattern that we just breached, so a little rest or pullback sets up an opportunity there. Keep an eye on those guys. Also keep an eye on steel. We're going to need all the steel we can find if we're going to build out our nation the way we need to for all of these data centers. And as you can see, CLF moving up. Now I have a bias on this. I am holding this trade. Breaking through this resistance and holding up here, though, is a good sign that we might stretch right on up. Test that next resistance to the upside, worth paying attention to. UEC is very well set up in here for that next opportunity. Again, I hold this, so I have a bias on this, but watch that carefully. If those buyers step up, I think there's an opportunity that could push on through. I'm not 100% sure here on Starbucks, because we've been struggling a long time in here, but remember, Starbucks is in the middle of that turnaround plan. You want to watch that carefully. We broke this downtrend, trying to break through some resistance here in the chart. Might be worth keeping an eye on that if you want to pick up something that's been really beaten down, a good dividend payer. Watch that closely on Starbucks. Could be interesting in there. So there's a few stocks, and there are a lot more, like taking a look at anything in the mining area. My goodness, these miners are strong. Take a look at Barrick. Nice little resting pullback in here. The gold pushing the way it is right at the moment, every reason to believe that we could see these mining stocks continue to move on higher. So keep an eye on those. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Be careful, be safe out there. And as always, I wish you all the best. And I'll see you right back here bright and early Tuesday morning. Take care, everyone.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail. Trading with heart where the profits prevail.